Hey guys, Majin Obama here, and I wanted to talk to you guys about a game that I had a lot of fun playing over the past few years. So first off, I hate mobile games. I hate gacha. I have a very love-hate relationship with physical and digital card games. But what if I told you that there was a game out there that combined the best, most fun, and most engaging elements of a multiplayer online arena fighter, a physical card game, digital card games, and mobile games and gacha, all in one? That game was, and this is going to sound weird, but this is a very different game, and it does exist. That game was FGO Arcade. This is a very different game than the FGO that a lot of you guys in the West are kind of familiar with. This game in arcade actually has real gameplay. Released in the summer in Japan in 2018, unlike its mobile game counterpart, FGO Arcade was an arena-style action RPG title that had not just very robust single-player content that was always being added and maintained in the game, but it also boasted a really engaging multiplayer mode as well, where you could play with players who were also in the same arcade as you or across all over Japan, all over the country on NetPlay. Basically, the idea with this game is you create a team of 3 servants, and you are able to equip them with various magic or Gainen Reiso cards to be able to boost their abilities. But what made this game unique as an arcade card game was that you were able to, like other titles in this subgenre, print the cards as physical media. You were able to actually print out your pulls and create a physical deck, and you bring that with you to the arcade. Like I said, there's other titles over the years that, especially in Japan, if you know, like Lord of Vermilion, Code Joker, there's a variety of titles like this. But for me, this one was just so much fun. It really hit different for me, especially because I really loved the idea of being able to create unique team synergies, not just within my team, but playing with other players too. There's so many unique kinds of strategies and ways to support each other in the game, formations. Man, there were so many ways to play this game, and it made it really, really satisfying to play. So just to give you an idea of how the battle systems can work even in terms of team composition for just your own deck, I'll show you mine. The Gainen Reiso cards that I use are Himawari no Nakade, which is basically a damage cut or defense boost, however you want to think about it. And that is one drawback of this game, is that the meta was kind of determined pretty quickly with this game, and the spell cards, basically majority of the player base I think uses a very similar collection of the Gainen Reiso cards. But for me, this is my card of choice, and I run Dr. Moriarty up in front, backed up by Ozymandias and Astraea. And one cool thing about the battle system is that they have what's called a Kizuna skill, which is basically skills that your characters have that will support the characters in front of them in various ways. So for example, Ozymandias, I have his Kizuna skill. It's called Kote Token, which is basically, it gives Dr. Moriarty an HP restoration, power up, and defense up by 60%. Astraea also has a similar effect for hers that I have set, where she gets the player attack and defense up, and their Noble Phantasm, their super attack, also gets, it becomes easier to gain that gauge. So for Dr. Moriarty, who's Noble Phantasm, his supers are very good. That's both of those Kizuna skills help me to run a more effective game with him. And that's just kind of how I built my deck and how I was playing the game. But part of what was so fun about this game was creating unique team compositions, not just for myself, but with other players. The synergy and the creativity that you guys could come up with was what really made this game a lot of fun to play. That's why I'm so disappointed, because after all the streams that I've had doing pulls for this game, streams that I've had playing this game, nights where I would dump coins just to play, it's all come to an end. After 5 years, they announced that they were going to stop adding new servants to the game, and I just couldn't help but think, man, not only am I disappointed that it's ended without getting more Type Moon collaborations with stuff like Melty Blood, Mahoyo, Tsukihime remake. There's so much potential there, but more so, it gets me thinking about, man, this game was so incredible, and not a lot of people will have ever gotten to experience it in this way. It's kind of sad. Now, of course, this game was over 5 years old. It's not that strange for a new title that is, essentially a game as a service to eventually hit that point of its lifespan where new content is not being added to it as frequently, and so we eventually hit that twilight phase. But it also, there was a lot of reasons for why this game failed and why it's now kind of where it is. And the elephant in the room is obviously arcades in Japan have been experiencing a slow death over the past 15, probably longer years, and that has been accelerated by the corona pandemic, which that happened right after this game came out, basically. But there were a lot of missteps along the way, too, which kind of inhibited its ability to become a bigger game. You got to also consider that arcade conversation, right? This is not a physical card game per se. It's not a digital card game. It's somewhere in the middle. It's an arcade card game. The arcade death and just lack of people going there now, and lack of support from a lot of publishers and developers for arcade-based titles for obvious reasons, it's creating just smaller and smaller player bases that make it harder and harder for these games to survive. I want to talk about a couple other reasons why I think that the game really struggled. The first was, and this was a big deal in 2018 when the game came out, this game has a very aggressive monetization structure. Certain in-game actions will cost certain amounts of GP, so you might end up, you put a coin in, and maybe you're in the menus kind of buffing your characters and using resources to make them stronger, and you use so much GP in that menu that you don't have enough GP left to start a level or something like that. Then your drops, all your drops cost 100 yen. So you not only had to put money into the machine to start it, but you had, in order to do your drops, you had to be willing to put 10 more coins in there to get a 10 drop. Pretty aggressive monetization structure. And the secondary market for this game kind of struggled because of the way you had to play this game with your AllNet card. This was a Sega-based title, so you could use AllNet or a different ID card system to basically be able to log your account. And the way this worked was, the secondary market for this game does exist. There were some card shops that were able to support different arcade card games. However, FGO Arcade was relatively unique. Basically, you can buy other people's servants and Gainen Reiso cards, and you can use the Gainen Reiso cards freely, no problem. But for servants, if you did not pull that servant on your account, then you would only be able to use a capped version of the cards, the servant card that you would purchase if your account did not pull it. So what that means is people who are playing semi-competitively or mostly just, playing to play, those kinds of players were punished by the secondary market and ultimately not really able to participate in as much, mostly just for collectors. And the prices on some of those cards were very high. The holographic versions of some of these cards were very, very low rate pulls. Ultimately, the effect there is that you're creating a smaller range of people to possibly engage with the game even in the secondary market. In spite of its faults and in spite of the many faults around it and of missed opportunities, man, this game was a lot of fun. The fact that you got to be able to play a game like this with physical media attached to it, really good gameplay, consistent content. Honestly, the pulls were fun. It was fun doing pulls, man. And I'm just thinking, man, it's such a tragedy that this game could only ever be done really in an arcade environment like this. I'm trying to think, if you did a console port or a Steam port of this, for it to feel the same way, you're going to give something up no matter where you put this game, right? This game would have fit in really well on mobile, I think, but it wouldn't hit the same without having the physical cards attached to it. And same thing with console. You'd have to have some kind of jank card reader system combined with it. We're going to take it back to the 90s, I guess, but I don't know how successful something like that can be in the modern era. It just wouldn't feel the same. And that's part of it that makes it just, to me, feel like this game had incredible potential to be something really cool. That's what really sucks about it. This was a really fun game with some really great ideas that most of the world will never be able to have. It never even had the chance to be appreciated. It just got me kind of down because I had a lot of fun playing it, man. It's just kind of funny in my case because I play fighting games, and this is a problem, something that comes up with the end of the lifespan of some of these games quite often, actually. So it's just funny that I experience kind of the same thing in another title where you have a game that is a really unique experience that just can't, it's a catch-22 scenario. It can't exist outside that space, but that space is the only place where it could really be experienced in a way that lets what it offer truly shine. There's been discussion about the upcoming national tournament for this game. There are some people that are kind of holding their breath for an announcement on maybe another project coming up soon or some kind of announcement, but just given the economics of the situation and how it looks for these arcade-based card games, it's just hard for me to see given some of the points that I've talked about up until now. I guess for you guys at home, have you ever had a game that you thought was just grossly underappreciated by everyone, or maybe a game that just because of the times or because of the environment just was not able to have its moment to shine? Let me know about it, and I'll talk to you guys in the comments below.